Bóinne, or Newgrange, is an enormous passage grave in Ireland that was built about 5,000 years ago, and it was considered a dwelling place of gods for at least 3,500 years. So how come this ancient monument played such a prominent role in Irish history? Hello, my name is morus-baird, and this is Celtic Source. The last ice age came to an end in Ireland about 11,000 years ago, but it wasn't till about 10,000 years ago that people began returning to Ireland. These would have been nomadic hunter-gatherers, foraging for food and settling at times in the more hospitable regions. Then, just under 6,000 years ago, a new group of people arrived in Ireland, bringing with them the revolutionary skill of farming. In 2015, scientists took DNA from the skeleton of one of these early farmers, a woman found buried at the Neolithic monument in Bóinne. Her DNA tells us where at least some of these people came from. She died just over 5,000 years ago, perhaps 500 or 600 years after her people migrated to the island. According to her DNA, she was descended in large parts from people who came from the Near East. They had probably travelled along the Mediterranean to southern Spain, then headed north all the way up along the west coast of France and across the sea to Ireland. But these people not only brought the first agriculture with them, they also knew how to build large stone monuments, passage graves and stone circles and henges. They probably built these monuments for their ancestors, as they were often used to house the remains of the dead. But they also built them to align with important astronomical events, accurately tracking the orbits of the sun and moon. And this culture wasn't just present in Ireland, but also in parts of Britain, France, Spain, Denmark and northern Germany, along the whole Atlantic seaboard. From the southernmost tip of Spain to the northernmost tip of Scotland, we find passage graves that were built at this time, often aligned with the winter or summer solstices. 5,200 years ago, about the same time the Bóinne woman was alive, Bóinne, or the Palace of Boeing, was being built in Ireland. It's an enormous mound, 85 metres across, built with stones taken from the River Boyne, about a kilometre away. The Neolithic farming community of the area somehow managed to move 200,000 tonnes of riverstone, as well as several hundred large stones, building an impressive passage grave that can be seen for miles around. As with many other tombs built in this period, a long stone passage runs into the belly of the mound. This passage is aligned with the position of the sun at winter solstice. To this day, the winter solstice sun shines all the way down through the passage of the Boeing deep into the tomb. This feat of ancient engineering shows these Neolithic farmers not only had a sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and the mathematics needed to make astronomical calculations, but also a profound appreciation of time, of the perennial cycle of the seasons, of the power of the sun over life and death on Earth. But these people were by no means the last to migrate to Ireland. Just over a millennia after the arrival of the farmers, about 4,400 years ago, a new group arrived. These were the descendants of people who originally came from the steppes of Eastern Europe and southern Russia. There was certainly some intermingling between the hunter-gatherers and the Neolithic farmers, and then again between the Neolithic farmers and the Indo-Europeans. But essentially, the evidence suggests that these Indo-Europeans replaced a large part of the earlier Neolithic population. This massive replacement may have not been down to violent invasions, but was instead the result of plague. The Indo-Europeans may have simply moved into areas that had become empty, the great monument builders having died as the disease spread. The Indo-Europeans themselves may have been the carriers of this plague, to which they themselves were probably immune. After arriving in Ireland and Britain, it appears as if these early ancestors of the Celts began sealing up many of the ancient passage graves they found. There may well have been some continuation of the older culture of the monument builders, but it's likely that there was also a general shift in culture at this time. About 4,000 years ago, it appears as if the passage at Bóinne was blocked, either intentionally or by a natural collapse in the cairn. Either way, its internal passage became inaccessible. Bóinne was still used as an important site of ceremony and ritual, with a wooden henge and stone circle being built just outside of the entrance. The passage wasn't reopened until 1699, which means the sun of the winter solstice had not shone into the mound since about 2000 BC. But it seems that the knowledge of this almost miraculous event was not forgotten for a very long time. Bóinne is mentioned in a few medieval Irish tales, and the type of magic and enchantment that's associated with the mound appears to recollect the passage grave's alignment with the winter solstice. One of these tales is the wooing of Aideen. Right at the very beginning of the tale, we are told, there was a wondrous king ruling over Ireland of the race of the Tuatha Dé, named Ochid Olatha. Another name of his was the Dagda, for it was he who used to work miracles for them, and to apportion storms and fruits. So folk used to say, and therefore he was called Dagda, good God. Elkfa of the Bóinne had a wife named Eithne. Another name of hers was Boeing. The Dagda desired to lie with her. The woman was willing, save for her fear of Elkfa, because of the might of his magic power. The Dagda sent Elkvar away on an errand to Bresh, son of Elatha in Magninnis, and the Dagda worked mighty spells on Elkvar as he set forth, so that he would not soon return. And he banished the darkness of night from him, and kept hunger and thirst away from him. He sent him far astray, so that 9 months passed like a single day, for he had said that he would come home again between day and night. The Dagda, meanwhile, went to Elkvar's wife, so that she bore him a son named Oengus. And the woman had recovered from her confinement when Elkvar came back, and he did not detect her misdeed, that is, that she had shared the Dagda's bed. This little episode tells us that Bóinne was the home of a magician called Elkvar and his wife Eithne. Another name for Eithne is Boeing, which suggests this woman is somehow related to the river Boyne, perhaps even somehow being the goddess or spirit of the river. This would make sense, as Bóinne literally means the palace of Boyne. We also hear that the Dagda, the good god, received his name because he used to work miracles for the people of Ireland, and would apportion storms and fruits. This probably means he controlled the weather and the harvest times for the benefit of the people. There is an echo of this idea in the brew, in particular the alignment of the passage with the winter solstice sun. Winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. From the winter solstice onwards, the days get longer as the sun gradually gets higher and higher in the sky. Winter solstice essentially marks the return of the sun, the movement towards springtime and summer. The Neolithic farmers that built the mound would have been very aware of the sun's abundant power, bringing new life to the land as its power increases over the new year. Because of his ability to change the weather and decide when the fruits ripen, is the Dagda essentially an embodiment of the sun? There is certainly something sexual about the way the sun penetrates deep into the womb of the mound once a year, marking the beginning of new life with the return of the sun. This is what's suggested by the intercourse of the Dagda and the river spirit, Boeing. Both sun and river were the essential foundations of life on this land. Without them, the earth was barren. We then have this strange enchantment, where the Dagda alters time to ensure his lover can have his child. Making 9 months appear as one day is clearly an otherworldly power, manipulating time to achieve a magical impregnation. In some ways, Boeing does something similar, being built in such a way that its deepest chamber is only lit at one special moment of the year. It appears as if cosmic time is being manipulated to bring about a miraculous event. Is this evidence of an ancient oral tradition that preserved the knowledge of the winter solstice alignment for thousands of years? Or am I just reading too much into it? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting, please like and share, and if you want to see more, subscribe and click the bell. You can download the different sources I've used to make this video at celticsource.online, or by following the link in the description below. This is the last video in the current series of Celtic Source, but I'll be back with more videos later this year. Diolch yn fawr iawn.